cutting edge guests, awesome, uncensored, jaw dropping information, plus funny memes, good deeds, and loads of laughter. Kind of have it all. Ladies and gentlemen, if your soul's awake, then welcome, because you're in the right place. Good day to you, ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls. Welcome back to the Sovereign Soul Show, a program which stands for love, levity, and liberty, because after all, love is greatest power everywhere, and laughter is the best medicine, especially covering serious topics and all matters ancient, current, and quantum, right? Absolutely. It's a mantra our mascot, the Winged Buddha, he fully subscribes to as he fires red pills from his 9mm. I'm your host, Brad Wozni, and I'm grateful to you divine lions and lionesses for tuning back in. I've served my country at the federal level as a Canadian infantry soldier. I served it at the provincial level as a wildfire ranger, leaping out of helicopters to fight forest fires. I've also been a part of the corporate rat race, where shortly after the 3 World Trade Centers collapsed in their footprint, I stood by ground zero as rescue efforts went on, and I was walking the halls of the Pentagon 72 hours later. I'm fortunate in 2015 to become a master of Yu Shui Reiki, and by leveraging the infinite source of our cosmic and our creator's power, I'm following my soul's purpose in this incarnation, which is to help uplift humanity's consciousness with song and story. Before we get started, due to the extreme censorship, we've just had another Instagram channel deleted. We've had another video banned on YouTube. This is not going to live on YouTube because they won't allow us to upload it right now. And very much like Kanye, we're being canceled as we share the truth, share free speech, right? So please subscribe to our Telegram channel at the Sovereign Soul Show so you can stay updated with things that we bring out on a minute-to-minute basis, if it's breaking information and really cool stuff. And then also on our Rumble channel to see every one of the uncensored shows that we're doing here. Now, I'm all about saving the kids, and that is one of the things I'll be speaking at in Dallas. You can look at thetruthtour.net, get your tickets, make a donation. Amazing speakers there, having been a victim of child and sexual abuse from people outside the home. I'm definitely speaking there to raise awareness for a great organization, which is called From Triumph Over Trafficking in Dallas, Texas. And they are literally taking kids out of the trafficking and helping to heal them. And there's a lot that needs to be done. So let's get into the economic update. It's been roughly a week and a half since I've done update, because we've been saying week after week, month after month, and you can see the writing on the wall for 2 to 3 years. There was a massive collapse coming, especially with the lockdown in the economy. Well, I want to just bring it to your attention for any of you who are new and you're tapping in the first time, welcome, as well as those who are returning. I mean, we are literally, they're finally saying it, right? The CEOs of the biggest bank in the United States, Jamie Dimon, right? There's a 20% crash coming, another 20% this week, just this week, another 20% wipeout of worldwide wealth projected. You're going to hear from one of the guests that I've had on, who is a 2-time PhD, he's got 2 doctorates, and a sovereign economist, Dr. Kirk Elliott. I'll have him on here in a moment. And you'll hear from him some of the economic updates. And first, let's get into the cryptocurrency. Now, by the way, for those of you who are new, my background is I went to the Public Indoctrination School of Wilfrid Laurier University, and I was accepted in their honors economics program with a minor in American political science. So economics was, while I was in the Army, that was the thing that I studied. Even though I'm not great at math, I don't love it the most. It's not a passion. However, I have a little bit of a sense in understanding the economics. And the key thing is in an inflation period where we are right now, this is the biggest global depression that we've ever seen. Donald Trump, who stated, again, regardless of your political views, we're on the side of light versus dark, even stated it, and we've seen the data, the worst 6 months of the North American economy, Wall Street has had the worst 6 months since 1872. So from January to July of this year, it was the worst since 1872. You know, that bypasses 2008, 2001 tech bubble, the recessions of the 90s and the 80s, the gas crisis of the 1970s, heck, even the Great Depression of the so-called dirty 30s, right? 1872. and the world's been locked down for the better part of 2 years. China, they're continuing to lock people down. Heck, we just saw in Costco in China, they're on that zero COVID policy. So if somebody tests positive in a PCR test, which we know are all false positives, we've seen so much research to that effect, right? Even the guy who invented the test says this is not for COVID, the flu, the SARS-CoV-2 virus, the flu virus, right? Well, holy smokes. They're locking people inside of Costco for 48 hours. And you see the panic when they're running for the exits. So just incredible. And right now, we have many more banks who are signaling that people won't be able to get cash out of them. We've already gone historically. We've seen Lebanon, we've seen China, we've seen in Germany, we've seen Deutsche Bank issue the fact that they just may end up in bankruptcy. Well, we're going to show you a couple of interesting things which have come to our attention right now to be mindful of, which is why I feel positive in doing a show on the economic update. And again, there's always lights at the end of the tunnel. Remember, there's a pendulum switch. And in economics, in an inflationary period, because we're in hyperinflation and the Great Depression, the things, the commodities that actually rise, that give you that security, are precious metals and real estate. Yet in the United States right now, real estate is cratering. So let's just go to one really interesting thing that popped up on Zero Hedge, this article here, regarding the possibility of the United States to return to a gold-backed standard. All right, so here we are on Zero Hedge. You know, we're not even 24 hours after the article came out, the announcement. It states that the U.S. Congressman introduces a gold standard bill as inflation spirals out of control. And it was a bill introduced by U.S. Representative Alex Mooney, Republican from West Virginia, saying that America's currency would regain stable footing for the first time in half a century with this bill. It's referred to as the Gold Standard Restoration Act by sound money activists, and it calls for the repegging of the Federal Reserve note to gold in order to address the ongoing problems of inflation, runaway federal debt, and monetary system instability. Now, one of the reasons everybody believes, majority of people believe Kennedy was assassinated is because he introduced the bill and was moving forward with printing, and historically, US currency notes backed by silver. And as we've seen, the Federal Reserve is not part of the United States government. It's its own for-profit corporation. Same thing as the IRS is its own for-profit corporation based in Puerto Rico. And people are wondering, well, of course, they don't want to peg this to the gold that they may not have, but they can run their printing press and charge rates of inflation. As you saw, I shared in one of my recent videos, you know, Gregory Mannarino said it perfectly, right? He's like, okay, understand, everybody who's worked on Wall Street understands how the market is rigged. And he gave a perfect example. Let me reiterate that for you right now, folks. The Federal Reserve has a printing press and says the value of currencies are worth X. They go to the central banks, which are corporations again, underneath them, and then they lend them the money they printed, and they say, you owe us X amount interest back. Those central banks who are tied to countries like the Crown Corporation of Canada, the Canadian country of Canada is a corporation, right, under the monarchy, then they lend it to the banks that are in Canada, like Royal Bank, TD Bank, Scotia Bank, same thing you have here in the United States, right? They lend it to JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, everybody for an additional interest rate. And then what do those banks do? They turn around to us as the consumer, the customer, from a business standpoint or from a personal standpoint, and they say, great, here's the interest rate on your savings, 2.8%, even though average inflation is 3 to 5% per year for the last couple decades minimum, right? And then on top of that, what they do is they will charge an annualized interest rate of like 286%, right? Usury, right? You've got 18 to 19.6% on credit cards, you know, or a 10% loan, you name it, or turning around with a mortgage, right? And if you default on the mortgage in the United States, then they're insured because Fannie or Freddie come in, they buy up that debt. Potentially BlackRock comes in and buys the property, and then like they are very open to stating that they want to do is own the real estate and turn it into rentals. So you own no property, you own nothing, and you'll be happy. Where have we heard that before? So we'll see if this goes through, but I believe it's a very positive sign from the United States. At least it's being discussed, right? And now it's being put into the open. Let's go over here and let's talk about digital assets, for example, and what's been happening. Now, somebody had made a comment, I believe it was on our YouTube, you always promote XRP, Ripple XRP. I'm not promoting anything whatsoever, right? I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not an investment advisor, nor do I ever want to be one. We've seen multiple times it's been explained, until he goes blue in the face, Dr. Elliott, he's like, listen, financial advisors, investment advisors, if they recommend you something for your portfolio, a strategy which is good for you, but not good for the company they work for, then they'll get fired under a rule called selling away the client. He's described all of that, right? So even if it's your investor interest, they won't recommend it. So I'm not recommending things. Ripple XRP is the prime example of corruption at the highest levels of government in, a financial sense, because of all of the information which has been coming out there, right? Where you have, two head directors on the SEC who used to be partners in two law firms. Those two law firms, they ran and managed primarily their client, JP Morgan Chase Bank. And so now, how is that not a conflict of interest? We're seeing so much that's been unveiled in court. And I've had James Valley from Val Hill Capital on here, who just 11 months ago led the first ever NFT securitized offering through the SEC, and is now sitting here and piecing together the Ripple XRP case because the SEC launched a lawsuit on Ripple and said, you are an investable asset and you violated guidelines going back to 2009. But they gave a blessing to Bitcoin and Ethereum and said, no problem. You don't need to be regulated. Go out there and win. Now, here's another interesting point that was made just yesterday at the DC Cryptocurrency Finance Forum. One of the directors at Ripple sat on there and called out, some of those in the DC fintech crowd, and stated that, well, just last week, why was it that we had the SEC say that, regulation of cryptocurrencies and also banks, should not be done in a cryptocurrency standpoint, right? You shouldn't be regulating this whatsoever, but we don't believe that any bank should go into it. However, Bank of New York, Mellon, one of the largest holdings, right? You probably don't hear about it because they're not really a personal bank, right? You're not going to go to, Bank of Mellon, New York to get a home loan or an auto loan. They're commercial, right? Well, they went ahead and they invested big time in Bitcoin. I shared on a show 2 times ago on this economic show. You've got the video of Jamie Dimon, who has said, 2.5 weeks ago, he goes, if any of my employees are caught buying Bitcoin, they'll be fired. Less than 48 hours later, JP Morgan Chase London bought billions in Bitcoin, it was reported. Doesn't seem like anybody got fired now. So we're seeing the doublespeak in the play that continues to be wreaked upon the markets. And as we know, we've heard many times, the precious metals market has been rigged by the bankers, thanks be to the RICO case that is continuing to go, it's ongoing, which is proving out that there was price fixing of physical silver and physical gold and other precious metals at the highest levels of these banks. Collusion, corruption to suppress the price of precious metals. All right. So not to rehash all of that here for those of you who've been on it, but understand, there are things that you need to do if you're not understanding that nobody really cares about your wealth. They just care how much they can make off you, right? And that great term banksters, I think, really does apply here from everything we've been seeing. Then you need to go into assets, commodities that are great in inflation, and that's physical precious metals, right? And it may be certain digital assets. That's entirely up for you, though. But what we've seen with the precious metals is really key is they hold their stability. And what we've also seen and shared in precious metals, gold and silver specifically, is Russia since 2015 was the largest buyer of gold in 2015. Now we've got the BRICS, right? That's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and several other countries, including Zimbabwe, which, printed its first docillion dollar. I mean, years ago, the word trillion kind of didn't exist in our local vocabulary, right? Now there's a potential for a decillion dollar. So many of these countries have left the fiat reserve currency, the US dollar being the one in the world, and now they're going over to gold-backed, precious metals-backed currency, and they've created their own exchange, the BRICS, right? That's another massive reason why we're seeing everything continue to crash. So let me jump into this right now. So even though we've seen Bitcoin and Ethereum have had its little bump this week, why do we see that and feel they've had that bump? Well, like Jimmy Valley explained, well, he has been able to find that the CCP, Communist Chinese Party, and JP Morgan Chase owned 40% of Ethereum. So what do you think it does when it signals to the market that all their buddies like, well, let's go in and let's buy some more? And then all of a sudden these articles come out from this corporate-owned media. We've seen the Mockingbird media shared those videos many, many times where you have dozens of news anchors saying the same thing word for word all across the nation or all across the world on different platforms all across the world at the same time in a matter of hours, saying the same thing word for word script, right? So folks, you got to jump in. You got to take care of yourself. And if you want anything, if you are an American, right, you have a potential with 50,000 grand savings or more in your IRA. You could actually, with our friends at Goldco, do recommend them because they're great on the follow-up. We have 1,000 5-star reviews. They're AAA rated. You go to buddhalovesgold.com, links here on the screen, and they will give you a free gold IRA kit and discuss with you how people owning gold in their IRA, physical, we're not talking about paper that's being recycled and repurposed and resold many times over to the unknowing, unsuspecting public. We're talking about physical silver, physical gold. So if you qualify, you can get up to 10 grand in free silver from them at buddhalovesgold.com. Let's jump into Dr. Elliott right now and what you're going to hear from him as he explained in the video we just exchanged this morning right before me coming on with regards to the 20% wipeout the heads of American banks are stating, right? So they're signaling this. They're finally saying what we've been warning about. And everybody wants a fact check. Well, here you are, folks. Check it out.
204. So you look at that, it's like, oh my word, used car prices are up like 70% since 2020. I mean, things are going through the roof, but what is not? Savings rates, personal savings rates are at the lowest that I've ever seen them, going all the way back to about 2008. Haven't seen savings rates this low. So you add all that together, and the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, along with Jamie Dimon, JP Morgan Chase's CEO, said that the stock market's in for another 20% correction. Ray Dalio said basically the same thing because the Fed funds rate is around I think it's in the 3.25% to 3.5% range. By the time that gets to 4.5, Ray Dalio said the stock market will come down another 20%. The IMF said it's going to come down another 20%. Jamie Dimon said it's going to come down another 20%. David Stockman, Reagan's former budget director in charge of the entire budget for the United States, prior to all of this happening, says the stock market was going to come down 50 to 80%. Well, we're down 25% so far this year on the S&P 500. Add another 20%, which is what these guys are saying. That's 45%. We're on pace for 45% over a 12-month span. That's a decline. That's not good, right? But I think it's going to be more than that. I think we're going to get more than that as interest rates continue to rise, because we're only about halfway through the proposed interest rate increase cycle that the Fed announced at the end of last year. And this is the mayhem that we've already received, right? So as interest rates continue to climb, equity markets, bond markets continue to get crushed. Well, the global economic slowdown, and this is why I think the stock market is going to get hit even worse than the 20%, is because the IMF lowered its global growth forecast from 3.2%, which is what it is now, global GDP growth, to 2.7% next year. That's way below inflation. Inflation's like at 8.3, right? Officially. So to have growth, global growth of 2.7 with inflation at 8.5, that's ridiculously horrible. That means we're going to get a widening spread of disparity, from income and growth and output to inflationary prices. This is not good. But that slowdown from 3.2 to 2.7, that's a huge number. When people don't look at it right? Because that's 15.3% slowdown in the global economy in 1 year. When you look at what it was last year, it was 6%. So in basically 1 year, the global growth has come down almost 50%. And then you add another 15% next year.
That's half. The global economic growth is wiped out by half in 1 year. And he's got about another 2 minutes here. And I really would encourage you leaning in, listening in, and paying attention to some of the information that Dr. Elliott is sharing here, as well as how it relates to precious metals versus the toxic stock market.
Year. In 2 years, the global growth, GDP growth, is down 65% on its growth rate. This is awful, right? So what do? I would allocate as much as you possibly can into inflationary assets that grow during inflation, like silver and gold, like we've been telling you for well over a year now. And don't let the ups and downs, deter you from doing the right thing, because you'll have 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Because the global demand for silver and gold right now is through the roof, absolutely through the roof. There's even delays at the depository on getting things shipped out, getting things, fulfilled, but we lock in prices and people call in right away, right? And then it just takes a little bit. It takes 3 to 3.5 weeks for it to get to your house. Don't let that deter you, right? And we're all family here, so this is going out to all of you clients, right? It's like I want to urge you to actually have grace with my team here, right? Because we're bending over backwards to help you, and we can't help the increased demand, which is awesome. It's why we're investing, right? But we can't help it that the depository is slow in fulfillment because of all the demand. I mean, this is unprecedented. So when you call in, have some grace. It's not our fault that they're slow, right? We're locking you in right away. But you know what? There's some stuff that we just can't control. We can't control, the shipping of products from UPS. We can't control the delivery from the depository and them getting things packaged up. It's an awesome company. We deal with the best of the best. But what we're seeing is absolutely unprecedented demand. And this is awesome. This is why we're doing what we're doing. But the encouragement in all of that is why we're doing what we're doing is to protect and preserve and to grow our assets. When so many people around the country are now doing the same thing, that demand is going to propel prices upwards. So do the right thing. Call us. We'll help you out. We'll get you locked in. We'll get you out of the path of this hurricane, right? And when you do call in, have grace, have some mercy, and let's do this together, because we're all family here, right? And we're being in the right place at the right time. Markets are falling apart. The stock market, the bond market, interest rates are soaring. Global growth forecasts are coming down. Stock market is poised for more of a not just a correction, not just a crash, but a collapse. And we're going to have to rebuild from this. But don't fret. Have a smile on your face. We're in the right place at the right time, going into inflationary assets like silver, and we can ride this out and thrive. So God bless you. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Well, and there you have it with Dr. Elliott, right? So we now have 50% drop in the global economic slowdown, and in 1 year, half the world's growth in 1 year. I mean, again, lockdown, crazy policies, inflationary spending, quantitative easing, which is basically, we think what'll help is we'll just print more money, but you, the taxpayer, if you're not walking the life of the sovereign, then it's up to you, your kids, your next generation, and the next generation. Now, here's the thing. Remember, they were predicting roughly 2 weeks ago that this current market, 2 weeks ago, right? 2 weeks ago, could take about half a century, 50 years to correct. So whatever you had in January in your portfolio could take another 50 years for the market to swing back. That was before Friday of the other week, where $980 billion in value were wiped out like that. And now you have the heads of the IMF and Chase Bank saying, well, probably another 20% this week. Like Dr. Elliott said, it's a collapse. It's here. It's been on a doorstep. The water is already rising. We use that analogy of a tsunami, folks. And there's a way, the life preserver, the lifeboat, the way to get out of that tsunami, or a helicopter rescue chopper in here that's lowering the basket to pull you out. Now I'm going back to my search and rescue training, military, right, which is awesome, is precious metals. For certain, you look at the thousands of years of how precious metals, thousands of years, versus the very first stock market began in 1870, folks. 1817. So 205 years versus multiple millennia. So that's where we're going. And you can give Dr. Elliott a call at the number that he described for anybody around the world. They'll take care of you. But understand, right? Everything is so busy. Nobody has seen this amount of movement into gold, physical gold or physical silver ever before. So yeah, things are getting way scary out there for many people. We understand that. The US government, remember government, Latin term, govern, meant, governus, mentis, governus, translates to control, and mentis translates to mind, to control mind. So the United States government's printed more money in the past 2.5 years than the previous 100+ century combined. Inflation is at a high. We've never seen it before. Dr. Elliott's own analysis, as he's shared directly on the show in our interviews, is 49% inflation minimum. The perfect storm for a global collapse that was brewing, it's here. And so for any Americans, that means your 401k, your IRA, I see it at serious risk if you're still in the markets. He has said multiple times over, stocks are toxic. So you go to buddhalovesgold.com and you find out how to protect the retirement account, the savings that you have worked hard for, and do so with gold and silver. There's a gold silver IRA kit there that will explain everything to you before it's too late. That's buddhalovesgold.com. Again, if you've got 50 grand more in savings, that inflation is already put your money at risk. All right. So thanks to our friends there, you can still protect your savings with physical gold and silver. And as we all believe, with the suppression that we expect coming off it at $19, $20 an ounce for silver, even the CEO of HSBC Bank said that in less than 12 months, silver should be $100 an ounce. So if you can get something for 1/5, the fraction of what the CEO of HSBC is projecting it will be at, that could potentially be a 500% growth in your investments or retirement portfolio in under a year, based on what they said. So you go to buddhalovesgold.com, you'll get the gold IRA kit. They'll give you $10,000 or more in free silver if you choose to open a qualifying account. So what are you waiting for? You go there, you tell them that the Bling Buddha and Brad from the Sovereign Soul Show sent you. Again, those are our friends of the gold company. And that is so key to take care of yourself. Now let's take a look at the real estate markets, which are again just cratering. And we have a few certain markets where they are doing quantitative easing to prop up the real estate market, even though the interest rates, and show everybody that everything is fine, and we still have high rates like Vancouver, where I'm from, Vancouver, BC. All right. But look at London. So Vancouver has been ranked for years as one of the top 5 most expensive cities to live in. Vancouver, British Columbia. Let me take you now to this article on London. London was also ranked for years and years as the most expensive, or the second most expensive, according to many economists, places to live in the world. Well, hey, right up there on BlackRock owned Bloomberg, boom, London's real estate market takes hit with UK economy roiled. And it says the economic turmoil following announcement of new budget drove a spike in sales falling through in upscale neighborhoods. Now, there was a period of time not so long ago, I lived in the Vail Valley of Colorado, and I was there in the 2007 through to 2015, 2016. And I got to witness the 2008 crash, right? Remember that? $800 billion to bail out the banks, the big bank bailout with the taxpayer money, right? Seeing it all over again, aren't you? And the thing is about the super wealthy is they feel the financial pain last and they recover first. So the thing to question yourself is, in the upscale neighborhoods of London, England, if this real estate market is taking a hit, what has been going on for the middle class and the lower income classes around it? And I know from friends that I've spoken with who grew up, live in the UK or used to live in the UK, but have a lot of family back there, they are just, it is absolute turmoil and crazy. But hey, this is on Bloomberg. So again, some people like, can I get a fact check? All right, for those fact checkers, which is totally cool, especially when you're dealing with the finances, here you are. This is what you're seeing. So, folks, I really do believe that the precious metals, because we've got thousands of years, at least 4,000 years of history worldwide, precious metals holds their value and goes up in value. And we're seeing things, people ask about why gold versus silver. Well, hey, you know what? Silver is a commercial commodity. You can't do much with gold from a commercial standpoint. So you've got silver in the LCD screens I'm speaking to you on the laptop. You've got it used in clothing. You've got it used in manufacturing processes. Obviously, there's jewelry as well. And then it's holding its own value, just sitting in storage and bullion, pegged 20-1 to gold typically. But we're also seeing that mass suppression in there. So definitely check out buddhalovesgold.com. Grab your gold IRA kit, and there's that potential for you to get $10,000 in free silver or more when you go there. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and listening. I do share many blessings and much love and light to you in these times. The tsunamis here, the financial tsunami is what I'm referring to here, right? It's up to your knees, if not your waist, in that aspect. So whatever you can do to grab that life preserver, that lifeboat, call in that financial helicopter to help yourself out. Look at this, examine it, have talks with the experts like at buddhalovesgold.com, our wonderful friends over there at the gold company. They're available for you, right? And you also have Dr. Elliott, as he mentioned. This is a time where we have never, ever seen in human history the amount of gold and silver being bought worldwide, scooped up as much as possible. So I wish you well. We'll speak to you later. Have yourself a wonderful rest of your day. Many blessings, and take care. Thanks for joining us on the program, ladies and gentlemen. Please like, follow, subscribe, share this with 9 friends and family. And of course, if you enjoy our blinged Buddha firing red pills from his 9mm, let us know.